Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, where you learn how to extract your business and personal deep wealth. I'm your host, Jeffrey Feldberg. This podcast is brought to you by Deep Wealth and the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience. When it comes to your business deep wealth, your exit or liquidity event is the most important financial decision of your life. But unfortunately, up to 90% of liquidity events fail. Think about all that time and your hard-earned money wasted. Of the quote-unquote successful liquidity events, most business owners leave 50% to over 100% of the deal value in the buyer's pocket and don't even know it. I should know. I said no to a seven-figure offer and yes to mastering the art and the science of a liquidity event. 2 years later, I said yes to a different buyer with a 9-figure deal. Are you thinking about an exit or liquidity event? Don't become a statistic and make the fatal mistake of believing the skills that built your business are the same ones to sell it. After all, how can you master something you've never done before? Let the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience and the 9-step roadmap of preparation help you capture the best deal instead of any deal. At the end of this episode, take a moment and hear from business owners like you who went through the Deep Wealth Experience. Joshua Lisec is considered the world's best ghostwriter because people don't get rich selling books. With over 80 books written for CEOs, celebrities, and entrepreneurs, Joshua has built an unstoppable results business for his clients. These authors have made so much more money through their authority-establishing books that many feel bad about how much they paid Joshua. And this despite him being one of the most expensive ghostwriters in America. Joshua is the only certified ghostwriter and certified hypnotist in the world and has a proven process for any aspiring author who has done the hard work of being the best at what they do. He takes great pride in his craft, delivering experts the authority book they've already earned. Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. You heard it in the official introduction. Wow, we not only have a fellow business owner with us, we have one of the most expensive ghostwriters in America who is getting results for someone just like you, an entrepreneur, CEO, founder, maybe you're even a celebrity. But let me ask you this. How did you feel the last time that you met someone and they gave you their book? Wow, talk about credentials, talk about establishing credibility, all that and more. But did the thought run through your mind, I'd love to do that, but how am I going to find the time? Where to begin? What do I do? That's what we're going to be talking about in this podcast of how you can really move the dial for you, your business, your legacy, and preserve that knowledge that you have. That way you just go about doing things in a very special way. But let me put a plug on it. Joshua, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. An absolute pleasure to have you with us. And I'm curious, there's always a story behind the story. So Joshua, what's your story? What got you from where you were to where you are today?
Hey, Jeffrey, it's pretty dandy to be here with you today. So as you said in that brief intro, I ghostwrite. I did not want to be a ghostwriter intentionally. My early days, young Josh, wanted to be a novelist. That was my big dream, to tell stories that changed minds, that told the unvarnished truth in a way that only fiction seems to be able to. And I pursued those dreams as a youngster and got a 2-book publishing deal from a small independent press. And then everything changed. While I'm signing books, meeting fans, 2 people say, Joshua, I like your book. Can you help me write mine? I want it to be a memoir, but read like a novel, kind of like yours. Can you help? I said, okay, fine, sure, I'll help you with your book. And I've been saying that ever since.
Absolutely love that. And we mentioned in the official introduction the story behind the story, because you're also a certified hypnotist, which is interesting. Ghostwriter, hypnotist. I mean, my goodness, what an arsenal of things that are going on there. What's the quick story behind the story on that one, Joshua?
The story behind the story in hypnosis is that hypnosis first is not this sort of mystical manipulation stagecraft where there's pendulums swinging and you're getting very sleepy. It's none of that. Mm-hmm. The hypnosis that I have learned is more so clinical hypnosis. Okay. Where it works with the subconscious mind to alter individuals' habits, their behaviors, and more by altering their beliefs, because beliefs become behaviors. So if you change someone's beliefs, you can change their behaviors. That one snippet there has maximal utility in authorship. If you understand that by laying beliefs out, new beliefs, useful beliefs, helpful beliefs on your given subject matter, you can change someone's reality.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's really parlaying off of what's running through my mind. If you want to change your life, change your circumstances, ask different questions, but it really, even when you're asking the questions, if you have a belief, oh, I'm really good at that, or you know what, I'm really not so good at that. Maybe it's true, maybe it isn't, but those beliefs really can make it or break it for you depending on where you stand on that. So that's interesting. So with that background, really from how the mind works to you being your own author, you're out there to people saying, hey, I love what you did. Can you do it for me? That's quite the journey. So where we stand today, Joshua, what are you seeing for the world of founders and entrepreneurs and CEOs in terms of how you're able to help them? I mean, what would be some of the things that perhaps are holding them back? You're now coming in and saying, hey, no worries. Let me help you with that. We'll do this together and we'll create a win-win-win by the time we're all done.
Yes, exactly. Founders, owners, entrepreneurs, and more, they understand the value of IP, intellectual property, copyright, patents, trademarks, trade secrets, so on and so forth, and that those alone can not just increase, but multiply the valuation of a business, the value of a product. And of course, the founders, owners, entrepreneurs, intellectual property also includes their story, their journey, their unique insights, their lessons, their takeaways, their unique way of doing things, systems, processes, procedures. And yet, all of that I just said often goes undocumented. It goes unpackaged. There's a few snippets here and there, maybe a LinkedIn post they wrote one time that went viral. They gave a speech a couple of years ago at their alma mater, and wow, you should turn that into a book. Okay, maybe I will. Don't have time. Oh. And so all of that, the way you do things with a capital W, goes left behind, unfortunately. And yet it can be the cornerstone, keystone, foundation of so many wonderful opportunities, be it more speeches, be it creating training programs so you have greater leverage, so you can turn the book into master classes, courses, coaching, consulting offers, like the vast majority of my clients have been able to do. So they have more than just one career, one path, maybe even one set of revenue streams, but now they have a portfolio of them simply by documenting their story via a hypnotic book.
Love that. A hypnotic book. And so Joshua, with this hypnotic book, why don't we talk about the why someone would want to do this? And then we can talk about the how behind the scenes you're making that happen. And I know in the official introduction, and even now you alluded to the fact that your clients, where you're helping them get this out there, because of this book, it's more business that they're able to generate. They can take it into other areas, perhaps other business funnels that can be created, all these other wonderful things that are going on. Can you share for us, and give some examples for our listeners? Hey, I know you're busy, but, my client so-and-so was busy, but here's what happened once they had the book out there. I mean, what's going on with that? Why would I want to do that as a successful but busy entrepreneur?
We often hear the saying, a book is the new business card. While that's cute, it is a lie. And the reason it is a lie is that even the most well-known CEOs, presidents, entrepreneurs, etc., when they give out their business cards, end up collecting dust or amidst the rubbish of the trash can. Does a book get thrown out? It does not. It gets opened at the very least. The table of contents gets scanned. The materials get skimmed. And if there's something that reaches into the reader's or skimmer's, in this case's mind, if it reaches in there, provokes some curiosity, gives them a bit of an itch, has them feel something, what are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, shoot, I need to come back to this. I need to check this out. This is relevant. This is me. I need this. And you cultivate that experience, that physiological experience at first glance. Tell me what business card is capable of doing that. Only a hypnotic book is capable of that. And now I say hypnotic book because I want to differentiate a typical book from one that moves the mind, that teases the emotions, that compels you to just kind of flow in the reading experience from one page to the next. A typical book that's ghostwritten or at least compiled by a third party, they'll often use what some call scribes, where the person interviews the author a couple of times, they transcribe everything, edit the uhs and the ums, and there's your book. Beautiful cover, a real publisher, yay! okay, that's pretty, but is it useful? Is it valuable, specifically to readers? And this is where I differentiate. While my authors are my client, they're not the customer. The reader is the buyer. If we center the reader and what they want from the book, that allows us to write a useful book. And that focus on who the actual paying person is, the reader, does change everything. Speaking of change, that's why they're buying the book in the first place. That's why they're reading the book. If they receive a complimentary copy from the founder, the entrepreneur, the owner, the president, the executive, the CEO, they're looking for change.
So they want this change. And speaking of change, very recently, and for our listeners, we'll have this all in the show notes. You brought a new book out to the marketplace. I love the title. So good, they call you a fake. Command attention, monetize your talent stack, and become the uncontested authority in your niche. So what's going on with that, Joshua? What's the message you're taking out there? And I love how you're just playing on the words in the title, but what's going on with that?
Yes. In industry, in the marketplace, we have reached a new equilibrium. In 2012, Cal Newport wrote a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You, which references this famous Steve Martin quote. The trouble is, in our global economy, where everyone has an internet connection for the most part, it seems, and anyone can make themselves be perceived as an expert, guess what? Everyone is so good they can't ignore you, or at least they can make it seem as though they are. Anyone can set up shop and in days purchase for themselves some semblance of credibility. So when everyone is so good they can't be ignored, nobody is so good they can't be ignored, unfortunately. And in this new equilibrium, understand that in order to have influence, which is what every leader wants, they have to have attention. How do you get attention? In today's day and age, one of the best ways to get attention is to cultivate organic haters, naysayers, critics who say, look at this person, they're total fraud. Wait, who? Where? Says the general public, or say the VIPs that you want to have as your audience. So the concept of becoming so good they call you a fake is that the average critic or envious competitor looks at the results you have been able to achieve and they say, psh, no way, that's a scam, liar, fraud, total fake. Because they can't imagine being as good as you are. And it's the accusation that you're a fake. That is what gets attention in this day and age. And the book is a collection of stories and insights from my authors who have become so good at what they do, they get called a fake, and how to emulate their success in your industry.
So very contrarian, you're doing the opposite. You're not growing organic raving fans, as we hear so much about, of, hey, get some organic detractors or even haters. So I can see why that could be a benefit. And there's the old saying, I'm just going blank right now on who said it, but any news is good news. And particularly even the negative news, people forget about what the story said. They just remember you and what's going on with that. But before we go into the how, so when you're out there and you're getting these negative detractors, these haters even, I mean, wow, that's a whole other thing that's going on. How do you handle that from a mindset perspective? People saying perhaps some not so nice things about you. How do you deal with that?
The usual frame is, oh no, people are saying bad things about me. The reframe is, I'm important enough to talk about. And the more talked about you are, the more important you are. Generally speaking, in our kind of internet or digitized economy. And this is even for your older school brick and mortar businesses, industries that existed long before the internet, maybe exist long after the internet, although that would be dystopian fiction, which I don't write. Or maybe we already are living in a dystopian hellscape. But to come back to your question, the goal is not to say, okay, what can I do to rile up people? Rather, that is an outcome. That is a confirmation that you've done it right. The anecdote that I begin the book with is unrelated to authorship. There is a group of, let's say, trick shot sensations called Dude Perfect on YouTube. They've been around for 15 years now, I believe. The seed of this book was planted when I was watching one of the members of this group giving an interview on Good Morning America. And the member of the group where they will say, I'm going to hit a hole in one on this golf hole. Goes up to the tee box, wham, hits it, goes in the hole. Hey, I'm going to drop a basketball off this skyscraper and it's going to land in that hoop way down there several thousand feet. He drops it, continuous footage, it goes in the basket. On this interview, the member of Dude Perfect said, "We love it when people say we're fake because we get more views and it makes everything we do seem even more impossible. You want to be so good, just like Dude Perfect, that they call you fake, that they look at your results for your business, your own journey, kind of your before versus after story, and what you're able to do for your partners, vendors, clients, customers, users, the testimonials, case studies, and reviews that they post."
Mm-hmm.
And people say, "Oh, obviously that's fake. There's no way." And then they go and talk about it. "Look at this fake over here. Look at their claims. It's absolutely ridiculous." "Oh, really? Oh, wow, it's possible to do that? I had no idea." It's similar to the way the little Viagra pill was marketed. If we could go there, if you don't mind, Jeffrey.
Sure, let's do it. Please walk us through that.
So there was a quote unquote warning or a disclaimer that was originally pitched, or originally presented, rather. I say pitch. That's the tell. It was actually a pitch. "If you experience an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, please contact your doctor." That was marketing. Longer than 4 hours. That's the pitch. It's the same way of saying, "Look at these liars over here. This guy says he can make a basketball shot off the top of the tallest building in the city. Look at it. It's obviously a fake. Look at this footage. They edited it."
Mm-hmm.
And now what is the general public doing? They are watching that video of somebody throwing a basketball off the top of a skyscraper and going into the basketball hoop. And that concept of a naysayer, frankly, someone who is envious and has way too much time on their hands, this concept maps onto other industries. Quick anecdote on this is that a couple of weeks ago, there was a coffee shop that went viral. They sold out of all of their products in a number of hours after they put a sign out front that said, "Come try the worst coffee one woman on TripAdvisor had in her entire life."
The human psyche, Joshua, it never ceases to amaze me of just sometimes how backwards it seems. We do some of these things, but from a marketing perspective, it works. What is it? Is it the curiosity that we're putting some things out there? We're challenging people. Hey, the worst coffee some woman had, and they all of a sudden sell out of it. I mean, what's going on with that? Talk to us from the hypnosis side or the psychology side. What's going on there?
Yes, the human mind, what it does is it attributes importance to attention.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm giving this attention, it must be important because I'm a rational person.
Mm-hmm.
And being a rational person, if I'm paying attention to something, that means it's important because I am a rational person. This is how the human mind thinks. We are not rational people. We are rationalizers.
Mm-hmm.
We do something and explain why we did it in the first place with often a completely different reason than the original reason for it. And so persuasion, and of course, as I always say, a book must be a persuasion device, meaning you're changing someone's mind about what their situation is so that they can get the result that they're looking for. Otherwise, they wouldn't need your book in the first place.
Exactly. And so with all of this, I mean, you've done a terrific job. You've set this up now of a little bit of a method to your madness with your hypnosis, which is done in a positive way, with your own experience of writing your own books, from other business owners reaching out saying, "Hey, I really like what you've done. Can you do something similar like that for me?" And you've done that, and you've crafted a formula that gets success, that cuts through the noise, that really has the book stand out there, and the benefactors, the people who are bringing you on board to write their book are now getting new business, more revenue, perhaps more credibility, going into other areas, and the list goes on and on. So talk to us about the how. We've touched the why and why this would be important to do. What's the how? What is the method to your madness? What's your secret sauce here that you're doing behind the scenes that you want us to know about?
The secret sauce is completely unrelated to book writing, in fact. Before I became a full-time ghostwriter, I briefly worked at an Inc. 1000 company, Inc. 5000, one of those thousands, Inc. company. But the point of it was my responsibilities were to design a knowledge base of several hundred standard operating procedures so that the company could be acquired for mid-8 figures, replace all of the workers with new trainees. And that's exactly what happened at that company. So I wrote over 300 standard operating procedures. How exactly do you do something? What is the outcome of this particular task across all of the domains, the teams, departments, verticals? Why do you do it this way? How do you know you did it right? And it just turns out, Jeffrey, that is the correct perspective to have for writing a maximally useful book. So think of a book as a standard operating procedure. How do you know it worked? And that one question blows people's minds because then they say, oh, I thought a book was supposed to be like stories and inspiration, and wow, that was interesting. But people buy a book to get a job done in their lives, and this is where we borrow a little bit of the jobs to be done theory
Mm-hmm.
from Tony Ulwick and Stratogen and Clayton Christensen and Harvard Business. That a book is a tool
Mm-hmm.
to get a job done. How do they know it worked? And that one question stumps a lot of aspiring authors and frankly turns them away, because then they think, oh, so my book is not all about me? No, it's not all about you. Oh, then maybe I don't want to write it.
And so, what does that look like? So, let's wave that magic wand. You and I were talking about that magic wand offline a little bit, and here we are now on the podcast. And so now it's been decided, okay, Joshua, you're going to write the book for Jeffrey. The book I've always wanted to get published out there and make a difference. I just haven't had the time or don't know where to begin. So, what does that look like in terms of how much time does that require for you to get to know what I want to talk about, and then the questions, the process? Can you walk me through that?
About 2.5 hours a week is
Okay.
what's required of the author. An hour of that is meeting with me and answering my questions that I
Mm-hmm.
have. And it is aligned with this standard operating procedure approach,
Mm-hmm.
a system for your way, step by step with no step skipped. And I'm asking questions that are, how can we illustrate this step? What are examples of it working? What are the objections or excuses or otherwise cope people use to not follow your advice or your way at this particular stage, be it an employee or be it a customer? Where does the process break down? Those are the sorts of questions that I'm asking about. Anecdotes, stories, what I can't come up with myself. And the other time during the week is reviewing the chapter I've put together, what I've compiled. Besides just the ghostwriting, I also do what's called ghost publishing.
Mm-hmm.
And ghost publishing is kind of like ghostwriting, where someone does all the work and you get all of the benefits of the experience. So I have clients like the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, Scott Adams.
Mm-hmm.
He is a ghost publishing client of mine, where we take the manuscript, I do my edits, my changes, my restructuring, my refining, kind of the ghostwriter's eye and talent stack applied to an existing manuscript, and then bring it all the way on through publication internationally in hardcover, softcover, audio, and so on.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is around 2.5 hours, give or take, a week. Part of that is you asking questions. Once we're into the process, I'll then be reading and giving you feedback on what you've been writing. And so, for how many weeks or months is that taking place?
Most authors, it's a 5 to 8 month process, depending
Okay.
on how critical it is to get done quickly, as well as their availability. There
Mm-hmm.
are some clients who have major events coming up that they need to be focused on. There's others who need it out ASAP. It's
Mm-hmm.
not possible, in my experience, to produce a good quality manuscript for most authors and
Mm-hmm.
launch the book in fewer than 5 months. It's
Okay.
just not going to happen. So that's the shortest amount of time. And for authors who need the book out yesterday, that's what we're able to do. There are some things that cannot be rushed. We want the system done right the first time, so it can get good results, so good that envious competitors say, obviously, they're fake. And that cannot be
Absolutely.
rushed. But authors who are on a little bit more of a relaxed timeline, we stretch it out to 8 months. And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay, Joshua, let's have you document my system, my way of doing things here. And then 8 months later, the book is complete, published, and available internationally, and has been released through the author's own publishing imprint, which we set up for them, so it's not quote unquote self-published.
Okay, and then we're going to talk about that in a moment. So, what I'm hearing you say is without rushing it, it could be done earlier, but give or take around 8 months from start to finish to have the manuscript done, the edits done. It's now ready to go to market. And then you're going to take that and off to market we go. And talk about that. So, behind the scenes, you're applying your craft, your expertise. You're doing it in a way that it's going to be interesting to people. It's really going to stand out from the crowd. It's really going to make a difference and get the results. And I know in researching for this podcast, I saw testimonial after testimonial of, wow, how you created all these funnels and these sales and all these wonderful success results that came from that. But between when you're finished the manuscript, Joshua, and then by the time it gets, whether it's in a bookstore or online or both, what are you doing behind the scenes? So the manuscript's been fully approved, it's set to go. What happens from there?
Yes. So then we reformat it to be industry standard, and we follow the Chicago Manual of Style, which is the
Mm-hmm.
preeminent source of what should a good book look like.
Okay.
The answer to that question is Chicago Manual of Style. So we follow those rules for the redesign and the layout and the interior. There are a lot of authors who have sophisticated business processes that require illustration. So there's an innovation book that we're finishing right now, and that book has maybe 40 graphics that illustrate sophisticated processes, just like a good standard operating procedure would have, visualizing it so you can grasp it so that there's no confusion. Because if it's confusing, it's not valuable because you can't use it. Right? So this is part of the sense of, okay, what is a maximally useful book? How do we bring readers into a trance a little bit so that we're anticipating every question they have in advance and answering it, which is what hypnotists do during a hypnosis session, is anticipating what their question or concern is going to be and then answering it before they get there so that they remain in rapport with you. And a good best practice of that is illustrating complex processes with multiple moving components. And so we design those graphics, and of course, we'll design the exterior, cover, back, front, spine, and then do all of the metadata, which is frankly really boring to talk about, but it's essential. And most authors have no idea about any of it. For example, how important it is to have a publisher's cataloging and publication block. Most authors have never heard of, much less know how to acquire, a publisher's cataloging and publication block. And yet, without that, the wholesale opportunities for the book are limited.
Got it. So behind the scenes, from the cover to the formatting to getting, is that the ISBN number that you're talking about where we're getting a publisher's block, or is that something different?
That's right. It's ISBNs. It's also, of course, the barcodes. It's the information that is, when a barcode is scanned, what does it say? What's all of that information? How do we ensure it's formatted correctly? Everything is ordered properly. And one of the ways, one of the benefits of this process and setting up an imprint for the author is traffic. Authors now who are foregoing the time-intensive and long timelines of traditional publishing, one thing that they're doing is they're making their website the imprint, the publishing imprint.
Okay.
I did that myself with my own book. So my publisher is listed as licecghostwriting.com. Oh, that's interesting. I think I'll go check out licecghostwriting.com.
Interesting. So you're really combining multiple things into one to really get the maximum effect from it.
Yes, there are numerous benefits to writing a book, and there's no reason they should limit themselves to just one or two. Oh, look, I have a book. It looks pretty. Credibility. Author of,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
there's many more than that.
So not to oversimplify it, but I am going to attempt to simplify it. And you can tell me, hey, Jeffrey, you're way off based on that. Or yes, that's pretty close. So really what it sounds like of what's going on, you're taking your expertise, you're creating a world-class manuscript, making sure that it conforms to the Chicago style, which is what all professional books are going to. You're getting all the proper designations and barcodes and ISBN numbers and everything else and the beautiful covers. And all that's being done that effectively your clients are really simply showing up once this is done because you're doing it all behind the scenes, but you're also setting the book up, ultimately the author up, not so much yourself, but the CEO, the entrepreneur, whoever it's going to be, that the book begins to set up a whole business funnel for them. But this is all happening behind the scenes from you of what you're doing and how you're doing it. Would that be more or less? Am I on base with that?
Yes, and it looks a little bit different for every author. There's some authors that I have where the book is the entry point into their funnel, where they promote the book, and then the book leads people to a free chapter or free resource or kind of a bonus upgrade that gets them into the email list. And from there, they get the first upsell, which picks up where the book leaves off. And that is so critical because right now there is a viral post on the Twitter X platform about an author who's pointed out that his book's release has completely tanked his entire information products business because he basically copied and pasted all of his courses into a book. And so people are buying a book for $20 instead of spending thousands of dollars on his courses. That is not the best way to do it. A better way to do it is to ask yourself, where does the book leave off? That's where your master classes, courses, and other information products pick up. That's a proper funnel. And so it's much less risky for a new customer to purchase a $20 book than a $1,000 course. But we know that repeat customers are much easier to sell. So once they get a taste of your greatness for $20, there can be the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And before you know it, your average customer value over a, let's say, a 36-month period is in the low 5 figures range. But it all started with the book. And those are upsells that would not have happened most likely without the book. Other authors of mine, they will print 100, 200 copies of their book and mail them out to their dream 200 prospects with a note saying, I think chapter 4 will be most helpful to you, given what I've read about your business online. And then this is kind of an outbound sales and marketing effort that is all in all, expensive or inexpensive, or at least comparable to, or has a parity with other attempts, other strategies, techniques for outbound sales, outbound marketing.
Sure.
And then, of course, there's other authors that have as much media outreach as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And the words author of appear behind their name. And so it's the author of part that allows them to create that much broader platform than they would have been able to without the book.
Let me ask you this. I am sure there's some listeners who are hearing us talk, Joshua, and they're saying, hey, this sounds terrific. That said, and here comes the but, someone else is writing this for me. And I've heard these horror stories when it's a ghostwriter that when people are reading the book, it comes back as inauthentic or fake, and it actually comes back as a negative. And it may be a valid concern, but what would you say, Joshua, to that listener who's thinking those thoughts?
I have almost 30 clients who have come out and publicly said, Joshua Lisec was my ghostwriter. Isn't that cool? Not my editor, not my writing partner, not my helper,
Mm-hmm.
but Joshua Lisec wrote my book.
Mm-hmm.
And then more people buy it as a result. If my clientele of executives, founders, entrepreneurs, if they were worried about inauthenticity, why would they do that?
So what I'm hearing you say is, sure, that could happen. In my experience, I'm speaking as you, Joshua, my clients say it all. They're really taking me, putting me out there. Hey, this is the ghostwriter. That's how well it's worked for them.
That's right. Because it is their stories, their
Mm-hmm.
ideas. It's just finding the best way to say it. In the same way that when you record a video
Mm-hmm.
of yourself or you record a podcast, many people will have an editor. They will have stuff put in, they'll add it on. Is it inauthentic because there was an editor that did a lot of work on the production of it, the processing of it? No, that would be silly to say that. And the
Sure.
same way it would be silly to say you had a ghostwriter, so it's inauthentic. But it would be helpful if they call you a fake for it.
That's going back to what we were speaking about a little bit earlier. And Joshua, I know there's a big difference of what you're doing versus the self-publishing movement that we've seen. And I'm sure there's people saying, hey, Joshua, it sounds good. It also sounds like you're expensive. Hey, I can do this on my own. I can, for a couple of dollars, go out there. I can self-publish a book, get that out there, and I'm good to go. What's the difference, Joshua, from self-publishing to what you're doing? Can you outline that for our listeners?
Yes, self-publishing, think of it as a platform technology or set of platform technologies rather than a process of doing one thing one way.
Mm-hmm.
In much the same way that I can release a book, or rather, I can release an album of music. Someone who has a top 40 hit on the radio can also use that same technology to release their album. Which one is going to be, let's say, superior? But it's the same. I released an album of music, and so did this famous artist over here with
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of millions of downloads. So what's the difference? We use the same technology, the same platform technology. It's the same way in independent publishing.
Okay.
Anyone can author a book, and just about anyone does. And that's why more than 90% of books available on Amazon sell fewer than 10 copies in their lifetime. There are books that it would have been better for the author not to release them because it would dismantle their credibility
Mm-hmm.
in public. Good example of this is a friend of mine named Jeff, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling me that he was at a regional business owners function. That was the context I got.
Okay.
And he said that there was a founder who stood up, introduced himself to everyone, and mentioned that he brought copies of his book. Everyone lit up in an environment where everyone's just passing around business cards or chatting up. Here's somebody with a book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, really? They have a method, they have a system, they've documented it. Oh, cool. They have a vision for our industry. And then what happens? The author has a little pile of books, starts handing them out, and the cover looks like it was designed in Canva.
Mm-hmm.
They used Arial or Cambria fonts. The spacing was a little jabberwockied. The story begins with, I was born in Fremont. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, gee, this is a book, and yet it's not a book. This
Mm-hmm.
is a vanity project in which the author had little to no self-awareness and was sold a bill of goods by a self-publishing services provider and said, "You guys, look at all the manners, look at all the benefits of and opportunities and advantages available to published authors. You can be a published author." And yet they are, and yet the book, if it could be even called that, was an instant credibility killer. And Jeff said that as the book was passed around,
Mm-hmm.
he saw everyone go from hopeful and curious to crestfallen and annoyed.
So basically, it sounds like it was amateur night. Yes, it was a book, but that's the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. It was a book only in physical presence, amateur night everywhere else, because this person perhaps didn't invest the time or the money to get it done right and just use whatever self-publishing tools are out there.
That's right. And in terms of expectations and pricing, that is, in fact, a better way to think about it. If you're paying very little for something, your expectations ought to be very low of the quality of the output. If your pricing is high, then you expect much more results. I pride myself on producing 99th percentile books, 99th percentile results for those authors. And that's why I have so many authors who, early in my career, would break the confidentiality agreement and say, "Look, Joshua wrote my book, so you should buy it." And now I have my own following. And so people are looking up, they're trying to find all the books that I've written or I've contributed to in some way, and they're buying them because I was associated with it. So it kind of has a Lisec touch on it. So it's going to be good. Now, this gets awkward when a founder buys one of the books on, let's say, divorce that I've written, and their spouse finds it. They have some explaining to do.
Yes, that's a whole other topic, a whole other episode. But really what it sounds like, Joshua, and congratulations, you've really created a category of your own. As we like to say at Deep Wealth, you're in your own blue ocean from your own in the trenches experience. You've applied that for yourself. You're now applying that for other business owners who really want to make a difference out there. And let me ask you this, before we start going into wrap-up mode, because out of every episode, ideally, there's one action that a listener can take when they finish hearing us talk before the next email, phone call, or meeting. What would be an action that a listener could take that you've now inspired them, Joshua? Yes, I want to get my book out there. I'm even going to perhaps contact Joshua. He's going to help me with that. But to begin that process, what would be one action that our listeners can begin to think about to prep them for that?
The prep work, whether you're going to author a book or not, is to answer the question, what is the outcome of my system? Now, as a leader, an executive, founder, president, etc., you have, as I said at the outset, the way you do things with a capital W. What is that way? Can you give it a name? Can you describe it as a system? What are the components to it? If it's a machine that an internet stranger follows, how can they get results similar to what you've been able to do for yourself, for your clients, for your company? And then what is the outcome of that? If it worked, how do they know it worked? And just spend 15, 20 minutes brainstorming that on a piece of paper, in your journal, in the notes on your phone, in a Word doc. That is the best place to start so that you can begin to capture the value of your intellectual property that you alone possess.
Terrific. It's really what I'm hearing you say is get some clarity around that for yourself, think it through, and that makes it so much, I would imagine, both quicker as well as easier when you begin that process.
Exactly. And that's whether you want to write a book or perhaps create a course or even a series of speeches and workshops you want to give. It doesn't have to be a book. In my own book, I talk about how to turn your intellectual property into books, courses, coaching, consulting, speeches, and done with you offers. So it doesn't just have to be a book. It can cover everything.
Exactly, Joshua. It sounds like really starting with the book is the gift that keeps on giving because it can take you into so many other areas, but the book acts as a foundation. It's all there and it'll help leapfrog you if you choose into those other areas.
Yes, think of it as the business operations manual of your genius.
Love that. The business operation manual of your genius. That's terrific. Joshua, alas, we are coming into some wrap up mode here. And with that said, let me ask you this. It's my favorite question. I have both the honor and the privilege, every guest that's on the podcast, I'll ask them this. It's a fun question. Let me set this up for you. When you think of the movie Back to the Future, you have that magical DeLorean car that will take you to any point in time. So imagine now it's tomorrow morning. And here's the fun part, Joshua. You look outside your window. Not only is the DeLorean car curbside, The door is open. It's waiting for you to hop on in, which you do. And you now hop in. You're going to go to any point in your life. Perhaps Joshua as a young child or a teenager, whatever point in time that would be. What would you tell your younger self in terms of life lessons or life wisdom? Or, hey, Joshua, do this, but don't do that. What would that sound like?
Both religious traditions and psychological researchers have identified something that allows people to experience what Jung called the collective unconscious experiences that are not adequately explained by our current Newtonian physics, let's say. Many people who get into hypnosis become extremely religious or spiritual through that process because of the miracles that they have seen. And they do use the word miracle. Practice, in some traditions of hypnosis, timeline therapy, timeline regressions, where they are able to go into such a deep trance that it is as if they are able to contact their younger or older self and communicate with that person. I have experienced that myself.
Interesting.
And it's wild. I'll put it that way. So for me, it's more than a thought experiment of the DeLorean. It's real. And one thing that I went back and shared with my younger self, particularly the version of me who was uncertain if I was going to make it, I was going to amount to anything, was it's going to be okay. That one simple message to one of the darkest times of my life, which was after college, I was trying to figure out this freelance thing. It was right at the beginning of feeling the burn of the recession, where there were hardly any opportunities. And I was, whatever's poorer than dirt poor, that's what I was. And I went back and I told that version of myself that. Now, some skeptics will say, well, that was just a thought experiment. That was just a deep exercise. That was a visualization. Okay, well, we'll call it a visualization, but it worked.
Yeah, a couple things on that, Joshua. Firstly, I love that it's going to be okay. And what's interesting, there's a number of themes that come out when I've asked this question, and I've had the privilege of asking so many thought leaders, and this is one of them. Hey, I'd go back and tell my younger self, it's going to be okay. And even hearing those words, it just feels so reassuring. It's a great takeaway for our listeners. It's going to be okay. You're exactly where perhaps you should be. Maybe you don't want to be there, but you're there for a reason, and it's going to be okay. It's all going to work out. But to what you're saying, it wasn't a thought experiment. You know what? The field, quantum physics, Albert Einstein, it's now saying that our past, future, and present is not the timelines that we think. It's all happening at the same time. Listen, that's a whole other episode. That's a whole other conversation. But what you're saying actually lines up with what some of the experiments are now proving to be the case. That yes, as interesting, or some people would say as crazy as it may sound, that Joshua present day, you're going back to Joshua, quote unquote, past day and having that conversation. It's all in the realm of possible. What was that like, by the way, for the younger self and the future self really conversing and having that conversation? I'm curious.
The Christmas novel, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, the Scrooge character, seeing the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. It is like that. You become a new person afterwards. It's real enough. I'll put it that way. One of the, I will say, most sobering experiences is when you meet your future self. Or you have that, I don't even know exactly what words to use, because there would probably be some, let's say, some skeptic who says, well, actually, Josh, and then explain it away. But I will say that in the same way that Scrooge became a new person through the experience, you do in fact become a new person. And if it's your past self you're visiting in the hypnotic trance of a timeline regression or timeline therapy in your own timeline, you then leave the experience with a memory of having that. So I now remember when I was a lot younger, really struggling, I got the sense it was going to be okay. And I knew that it was going to be okay. And I remember that changed a lot for me. And I had the fortitude I needed. Isn't that interesting?
It is. It's beyond interesting. It is fascinating. But perhaps that can be another episode. That's a whole other rabbit hole I would love to go down. But let me ask you this. As we begin to wrap up this episode, for a listener who wants to learn more, maybe they even want to speak with you, they have some ideas for a book they want to do, or they have some questions, where's the best place, Joshua, that someone can find you?
Well, see, I have this publisher called LisecGhostwriting.com.
Terrific. And for our listeners, it is a point and click. Come to the show notes. It's all there for you. You'll point and click. We have a number of links. You'll love what you're going to see. Joshua, this is official. Congratulations. It's a wrap. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while remaining healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure, Jeffrey. Thank you.
The Deep Wealth experience was definitely a game changer for me.
This course is one of the best investments you will ever make, because you will get an ROI of 100 times that. Anybody who doesn't go through it will lose millions.
If you don't have time for this program, you'll never have time for a successful liquidity.
I mean, it was the best value of any business course I've ever taken. The money was very well spent.
Compared to when we first began, today I feel better prepared, but in some respects, maybe less prepared, not because of the course, but because the course brought to light so many things that I thought we were on top of that we need to fix.
I 100% believe there's never a great time for a business owner to allocate extra hours into his or her week or day. So it's an investment that will yield results today. I thought I will reap the benefit of this program in 3 to 5 years down the road. But as soon as I stepped forward into the program, my mind changed immediately.
There was so much value in the experience that the time I invested paid back so much for the energy that was expended.
The Deep Wealth experience compared to other programs is the top. What we learned is very practical. Sometimes you learn stuff that is great to learn, but you never use it. The stuff we learned from Deep Wealth experience, I believe is going to benefit us both.
I've done an executive MBA. I've worked for billion-dollar companies before. I've worked for smaller companies before I started my business. I've been running my business successfully now for getting close to a decade. We're on a growth trajectory. Reflecting back on the Deep Wealth, I knew less than 10% what I know now. Maybe close to 1% even.
Hands down, the best program in which I've ever participated. And we've done a lot of different things over the years. We've been in other mastermind groups, gone to many seminars, workshops, conferences, retreats, read books. This was so different. I haven't had an experience that's anything close to this in all the years that we've been at this. It's 5-star, A+.
I would highly recommend it to any super busy business owner out there. And Deep Wealth is an accurate name for it. This program leads to deeper wealth and happier wealth, not just deeper wealth. I don't think there's a dollar value that could be associated with such an experience and knowledge that could be applied today and forever.
Are you leaving millions on the table? Please visit www.deepwealth.com/success to learn more. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be. Sign up at www.deepwealth.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, if it added value, if you walked away with some new insights and strategies, please leave a review on your favorite podcast channel. Reviews help us reach new listeners, grow the show, and continue to create content that you'll enjoy. And as we wrap up this episode, as always, please stay healthy and safe.